When I unfolded the thin envelope from the university's financial office, I already had a sense of what it contained. I had long become familiar with the sting of rejection, not from the school itself, but from my own family. Inside was a formal letter stating that my tuition remained unpaid, and unless the outstanding amount was settled within 10 days, I would be unenrolled from the upcoming semester. 10 days. After 3 years of maintaining straight A's, juggling 2 part-time jobs, tutoring on weekends, and declining every social event that didn't offer a scholarship, this was how my academic journey was set to end. I stared at the words, feeling numb. I had pleaded with them over and over again. Just one more semester, I'd said. Please, just until I graduate. But their voices played over in my mind like a cruel tolling bell of disappointment. We're tight on money, sweetie, my mom had told me, her tone dismissive, the same one she reserved just for me. You know we have your sister's Paris semester to pay for. By then, I wasn't surprised anymore. My sister Chloe had the uncanny ability to make her wishes come true by morning. She wanted to study abroad for a semester to find inspiration. Suddenly, there were non-refundable plane tickets to France, luxury dorms, and designer luggage waiting in the driveway. Meanwhile, I had to submit a detailed proposal just to get $100 to cover lab fees. I had stopped hoping long ago. But knowing they were letting me sink while they sipped wine under the Eiffel Tower with Chloe, this was the last straw. When I showed them the notice, I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I simply folded the letter neatly and said, "Thanks for making it clear where I stand." My dad glanced up from his phone, already bracing for what he assumed would be my guilt trip. My mom sighed. "We're not made of money, you know." I didn't say another word. Not a single call, no texts, no updates. If they didn't value me enough to support me, I decided they weren't worth my fight. But what they didn't realize was that I wasn't giving up. I never had. I went to the school administration and laid out my situation, not as a sob story, but as a straightforward request. One professor, who had seen me come alive in her classes, vouched for me. Another connected me with a scholarship foundation dedicated to students in crisis. I applied for emergency funds, sold some personal belongings, and took on an overnight shift at a local print shop. I was down to about 4 hours of sleep each night. My body ached, my mind ached, but I stayed enrolled, quietly pushing through without a single cent from the people who were supposed to believe in me. Meanwhile, their Instagram stories flooded my phone whenever I dared to check the app. Chloe clinking glasses on the beach, my parents posing with her in front of the Eiffel Tower, #family over everything. The irony twisted my stomach. The day I finally walked across that stage, I didn't invite them. I didn't want applause from those who had bet against me. Instead, I reserved 2 seats in the front row, empty, unnamed, but I had a feeling they'd show up regardless. Appearances mattered too much to them, and Chloe probably told them about the ceremony after flying back for the summer. When I stepped out in my cap and gown, valedictorian of my class, honored with the department's highest award in neuroscience, I scanned the audience and saw them sitting there, dressed like proud parents trying to blend in with the crowd they hadn't earned. And that's when the real story began. My heels clicked sharply backstage as I waited for my name. The air buzzed with nervous energy from the other graduates, while the crowd beyond the curtain murmured in anticipation. But I wasn't nervous. I wasn't thinking about the stage. I was focused on those 2 reserved seats. I could hear my mother's unmistakable laugh from behind the curtain, shrill, rehearsed, the same laugh she used to feign admiration for someone wealthier. My father had even worn a suit, something he hadn't bothered with at my high school graduation, where he'd arrived late and left early, citing work emergencies. I supposed he thought showing up now would erase years of neglect. But I hadn't forgotten. I had counted every recital they missed, every science fair they brushed aside, every eye roll when I brought home achievements Chloe never dreamed of. And now, there they were in those reserved seats, probably expecting thanks. They had no idea I'd requested those seats for one very specific reason. The valedictorian of the graduating class, the dean announced, a student whose resilience, brilliance, and determination embody this university's spirit, please welcome Samantha Lee Carter. Applause thundered through the auditorium. I took a steady breath, stepped onto the stage, and locked eyes with them. My mother's smile froze mid-expression. My father squinted, as if struggling to believe it was really me. Chloe sat beside them, phone in hand, lips parted in disbelief. I walked across the stage without waving, blowing kisses, or smiling. I shook the dean's hand, accepted the diploma, and moved to the podium. That moment was the one I had waited for, not out of vengeance, but for truth. "Thank you," I began, my voice steady and clear. The path I took wasn't simple. It wasn't straightforward, and it certainly wasn't fair. But I'm proud to stand here today because of those who believed in me when it would have been easier to just forget. The crowd offered polite applause. My parents leaned forward, perhaps assuming I was about to soften and give them some credit. I continued, "I want to thank my professors," my eyes locking with Dr. Miller, who often stayed late to help me navigate tough research assignments. To the donors who stepped in when others turned away. To the staff who noticed my hunger when I said I was fine. And to the strangers who showed kindness when those closest to me did not. A hush fell over the room, the stunned, polite kind of silence. "I didn't grow up in a family that celebrated effort," I said, my gaze sweeping over the front row like a spotlight. "They valued appearances instead, curated Instagram moments and the illusion of perfection." Chloe's face flushed red. My mother fidgeted nervously. My father stared straight ahead, expression hard as stone. "They told me they couldn't afford my tuition," I said, voice steady, "then boarded a plane to Paris for selfies and parties. They called me dramatic and said I didn't deserve special treatment. But education isn't a luxury, it's a right. And I claimed mine, with or without them." A few gasps rippled through the crowd, then real applause, genuine, swelling from people who understood. It reminded me I wasn't crazy for feeling invisible. I left the podium before the cheers quieted. I didn't glance back. I didn't have to. Afterwards, at the reception, I mingled, hugging classmates, posing for photos with professors and friends. I could sense their eyes on me, my parents lingering awkwardly on the sidelines, like guests at a party they hadn't been invited to. They tried to approach me. My father opened his mouth, but I passed by him as if he were a stranger. "Wait," my mother called after me. "We're here." "We came," I replied. "But everyone here earned the right to celebrate." Chloe looked ashamed, maybe for the first time ever, but she said nothing. I wasn't looking for apologies or redemption. I was done needing recognition from people who chose not to see me. What they didn't know was that I had already made plans. The school's alumni committee had reached out with a job opportunity, and I accepted. The position came with housing. I'd be moving out of state, beyond their reach, into a future they couldn't control. As a final gesture of closure, I mailed them a copy of the university bill they refused to pay. Along with it, a note, paid in full. "Not by you. Never needed you." They never replied. But I wasn't surprised. Sometimes silence, like distance, is the most powerful form of justice. Months passed, and life blossomed in ways I hadn't imagined. My new role at the Research Institute brought me to a city where I was judged not by my family name or connections, but by my intellect, my work, and my presence. For the first time, I wasn't just Chloe's sister or another Carter. I was Samantha Carter, respected, welcomed, and finally seen. I never heard from my parents again. No calls, no emails, no half-hearted attempts to reconnect. And honestly, that silence felt like peace. Then one day, a message arrived from Mrs. Tilda, my old neighbor, the kind woman who used to bring me banana bread when I was a kid. She told me my parents had sold the house. Apparently, they were downsizing after what she called some serious financial troubles. I didn't care to know the details. What struck me wasn't the loss of the home, it was that they hadn't told me. They had erased me so completely that even their failures no longer included me. I thought I might feel bitter or smug. But I didn't. I felt clean. Free. To close the chapter, I packed up my old college photos, my awards, and the letter from my professor who called me one of the finest minds he had mentored in 20 years. I didn't keep these as proof for anyone else, just quiet reminders for myself. Proof that I had climbed that mountain on my own, that I had become the woman they never thought worthy of investing in, and that I had turned their rejection into my fuel. In the end, I didn't need revenge. Success was enough. And silence was the most honest conversation we ever had.